I'm Rachel Miller, 44 years old. For 20 years, I was married to David Miller, and for 20 years, I was the engine. People think marriage is 50-50. Ours was 90-10, and I was the 90. Bills? I paid them. Groceries? I bought them. My mom, Margaret, 82, widowed, living alone at 982 Elm Court. I checked on her every single night after my shift at the clinic. David was the passenger. He worked, sure, logistics at the hub outside Cedar Falls, but the house ran because I ran it. You stop noticing it after a while. You just figure it out. Car breaks down? Figure it out, Rachel. Mom needs her prescription picked up in a snowstorm? Figure it out. Marriage feels like your roommates who split utilities? Figure it out, because the alternative is expensive and complicated and scary. I figured it out so well that David forgot I was doing it. Then came the night. It was a Tuesday, 9:17 p.m. I remember because I looked at the microwave clock when my phone rang. Margaret's voice, but not her voice. Wet, gasping. Rachel, chest, can't breathe. My stomach dropped to the floor. Mom, I'm calling 911. I'm coming right now. I hung up and dialed 911 with one hand, grabbed my keys with the other. The operator picked up. I gave them Margaret's address, told them suspected heart attack, 82-year-old female. Unit dispatched, she said. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Cedar Falls is small, but the ambulance comes from Waterloo on nights. 12 minutes when your mother can't breathe is a lifetime. I ran to the bedroom. David was on the bed, tying his shoes, button-down shirt, jeans, his poker night, every Tuesday at Tony's house. David, it's Mom. Heart attack, I need the truck. My Honda had a dead battery. I tried it that morning, meant to jump it after work. Didn't because I figured I'd do it tomorrow. There's always a tomorrow until there isn't. David didn't even look up. He finished the knot, stood. You take your car. It's dead. I need your keys right now. He grabbed his jacket from the chair. I'm late. Tony deals me in at 9:30. You know that. David, she can't breathe. She might be dying. He walked past me to the door, hand on the knob. Call 911 then. That's what they're for. He opened the door. The hallway light cut across his face. He looked at me for 1 second. Not anger, not panic, just nothing. Indifference. Then he stepped out and pulled the door closed behind him. Click. That sound. I'll hear that sound for the rest of my life. I stood there for maybe 3 seconds. My brain trying to process that the man I'd been married to for 20 years just chose cards over my mother's life. Then training kicked in. I'm a nurse. I grabbed my phone, ran to my car, popped the hood in the dark. Neighbor's porch light was on. Henry Walsh, 68, retired Navy. Mows Margaret's lawn every Saturday since Dad died 8 years ago. Never asks for money. I banged on his door. He opened it in 3 seconds, sweatpants, t-shirt, saw my face. Margaret? Heart attack, my car's dead, please. He didn't ask questions, didn't grab shoes. He grabbed his keys off the hook and ran to his Ford F-150 in bare feet. Get in. We made it to Elm Court in 4 minutes. The ambulance was pulling up as Henry skidded to a stop. EMTs were already moving. Margaret was on the floor in the kitchen, gray, sweating, clutching her chest. Dr. Roberts met us at Covenant Hospital in Waterloo. You got her here fast. That mattered. Margaret stabilized. She lived. Because Henry showed up in 3 minutes. David didn't show up at all. That was the night I learned the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And David had been indifferent for years. Poker night just made it impossible to ignore anymore. I didn't go home that night. I slept in the chair at the hospital. Wednesday morning, I called into work. Dr. Roberts let me use the on-call room to shower. I drove to 1247 Oak Street at noon. David's truck was gone. He was at work. The house was quiet. I walked through it like a stranger. Coffee mug in the sink from Tuesday morning. His. I'd always washed it. Trash full. I always took it out Wednesday. Calendar on the fridge. Mom, cardiology 2 p.m. Friday. My handwriting, I'd scheduled it. I would have driven her. I packed a bag, scrubs, jeans, toiletries, left my wedding ring on the bathroom counter next to the sink. Not symbolic, I just didn't want to wear it. I went to Elm Court. Margaret was being discharged Thursday. The daisy wallpaper in my childhood bedroom was still there. Age 16 to 44. Life's a circle sometimes. That's when I understood. I was the engine. David was the passenger. And the moment I stopped driving, everything stopped. I know because 3 days later, he pocket dialed me. I answered, heard nothing, was about to hang up when the smoke alarm started screaming in the background. Then David cussing. Then the call dropped. He burned rice, twice in 1 week. The dishes stacked up. I know because Sarah, my sister, went to get some of my things the next week. She said the sink was full, the laundry piles made it to the living room. The poker group dissolved. Tony texted David that the game was on hold. Mike stopped returning calls. Polite avoidance. That's how men do it. Matt from shipping at the hub kept it professional with David. They nod in the hallway. That's it. David eats lunch in his truck now. I hear it from Emily, Matt's wife. She sent me a card to the clinic. No return address, just my name. Inside, "You're stronger than you know, Audrey. We're here." She used my first name, not Mrs. Miller. That mattered. Cedar Falls didn't confront David. Small towns don't do that. They adjust. Quietly. Firmly. At the clinic, Dr. Roberts asks me how Margaret is doing. Every morning. Not once. Every morning. The other nurses leave meals in the break room fridge. Lids have my name in Sharpie. Underneath, for Margaret. Chicken soup, baked ziti, November a full Thanksgiving plate. Note, she earned every bite. At First Presbyterian, Pastor James mentions Margaret in prayer circle. Doesn't mention David. Doesn't have to. 3 women I barely know bring casseroles to Elm Court on a rotating schedule I didn't organize. They just appeared. David notices it the other way. Betty Collins at Kroger on University Avenue rings up his groceries Tuesday afternoon. Doesn't quite look at him. Tell Margaret I'm praying for her. She's a good woman. Neutral tone, friendly even. But the message underneath is clear as a bell. I know what you did. Millbrook doesn't forget. It doesn't shout. It just rearranges until the person who caused the damage is standing on the outside of every circle they used to take for granted. Nobody says you deserve this. Nobody has to. The silence says it for them. 3 weeks after the night, I sit in the office of Diane Collins, family law attorney, 2 towns over in Waterloo. I drove there because I didn't want this in the Cedar Falls Register. Small towns. Diane is 52, gray bob, no wedding ring, direct. I like her immediately. No tissues, no, how does that make you feel? Just law. Grounds? She asks. Irreconcilable differences. She nods, makes a note. You don't have to detail the specifics on the filing. Court doesn't need it. I almost laugh. The specific is because he wouldn't lend me his truck. That's the truth stripped to its simplest form. A woman asked her husband for help. He said no. Everything that followed was gravity. The papers are filed on a Wednesday. David is served at 1247 Oak Street the following Friday. Process server 4:30 p.m. I know because Diane's paralegal texts me, service complete. He calls? Of course he calls. 6:02 p.m. I'm at Elm Court making Margaret oatmeal. Rachel, you're really doing this? Yes. 20 years. I know, David. I was there for every one of them. I can change. I'm already... I cut him off. I don't have the energy anymore. When Mom was on the floor, what did you do? I didn't know. You knew. I told you, and you chose poker. Silence. I can hear him breathing, then. And if you could go back right now to that hallway, would you hand me the keys? Yes, of course. But you didn't. And that's the thing about moments, David. You don't get to answer them in hindsight. You answer them when they happen, and your answer was, not my problem. More silence. Then I hear it. Quiet, muffled crying. Like he's pressing the phone against his chest so I won't hear. For one small, honest moment, I feel sorry for him. Not sorry enough to stop, but sorry enough to say goodbye gently. Take care of yourself, David. I set the phone down. Not a slam, not a click, just the soft sound of something being put in its proper place. Like a book you finished reading. Saturday morning, 10:15. Knock at the door. I'm in the kitchen. Margaret's in the living room, reading, Afghan on her lap. I open it. Linda Miller, David's mom. Silver hair pinned back, wool coat buttoned to the throat out. Jaw set like a woman preparing for a courtroom she was never invited to. She drove 45 minutes from Dubuque. Didn't call ahead. I'd like to speak with Margaret. I step aside. This is Margaret's house. Margaret's fight. I go to the kitchen. Leave the doorway open. I can hear every word. Linda sits across from Margaret. No tea offered. Margaret, my son made a mistake, but cutting him out of your will. Don't you think that's extreme? Margaret lifts her teacup, takes a slow sip, sets it back on the saucer. The clink is loud in the quiet room. Linda, if your daughter-in-law refused to let your son borrow a car while you were having a heart attack so she could go play cards, what would you do? Linda's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. She closes it. That's what I thought. He's not a bad man, Margaret. He panicked. He didn't panic, he went to poker. Panic is when you don't know what to do. He knew exactly what he was doing, he just didn't care. Linda stands. Her coat rustles. This conversation isn't productive. No, it isn't, because there's nothing to discuss. My money goes where my trust goes, and trust is earned, Linda, not inherited. Linda leaves without another word. Front door closes softly. Car starts. Gravel crunches as she backs out of the driveway. I step into the living room. Margaret is looking at the window, teacup still in her hand. And then, for the first time since the hospital, I cry, not because I'm sad, because my mother just said out loud the thing I've been carrying in my chest for 20 years, and hearing it in her voice made it real. She doesn't look at me. She just says, "Come sit down, sweetheart. The tea is still warm." 3 months later. The accounting, 28 minutes to 36 minutes. 3 months after the night, everything changed and nothing changed. Margaret is doing well, medication at 8 a.m. every morning. I set the alarm on her phone. She's proud she figured out how to dismiss it. Oatmeal with blueberries. Walks to the mailbox and back twice a day. Dr. Roberts every 3 weeks. Blood pressure 118/76. Lower than it's been in years. Henry still mows the lawn Saturdays. He brought Margaret a bird feeder for Christmas. She hung it from the porch awning. Now they argue about whether the Blue Jays are bullying the Finches. It's the most animated I've heard her since Dad died 8 years ago. Dad's picture is still on the mantle. Henry nods to it when he comes in. The separation moves forward. Diane filed. Division is straightforward. We didn't own much together. 20 years, 2 people who both worked, and we had $11,400 joint savings. That's it. That tells you everything about our priorities. David keeps the truck, his personal belongings, his half of the $11,400. I keep the rest of savings, my 2018 Honda, and my name on the lease at Oak Street. I'll let it expire in March. I'm not going back. David moved back to Dubuque, Linda's spare room. He got a transfer to the Logistics Hub satellite office there. At least he's working. Matt texted me in December. One line. "Rachel, I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner." I texted back. "You said it when it mattered, Matt. Thank you." Because he did. He was the one who told me about the poker game being mandatory for David. He tried. I opened a savings account at Community Bank on Main Street. Just mine. Only my name. Deposited my first paycheck last week. $1,847.32 after taxes. I sat in the parking lot for 5 minutes looking at the receipt. For the first time in 20 years, every dollar I earn goes into an account with only my name on it. It feels like breathing, like I'd been holding my breath for 2 decades and didn't know it. Every 2 weeks, Sarah drives up from Des Moines. 2 hours each way. She brings groceries, gossip, and herself. We sit at the kitchen table, Margaret, Sarah, and me. Eat dinner, loud, warm, overlapping, like the table was always meant for 3. Sarah does impressions of our dad. Margaret throws a dinner roll at her. I laugh until my sides hurt. Margaret is doing well, medication at 8 a.m. every morning. I set the alarm on her phone. She's proud she figured out how to dismiss it. Oatmeal with blueberries, walks to the mailbox and back twice a day. Dr. Roberts every 3 weeks, blood pressure 118/76. Lower than it's been in years. Henry still mows the lawn Saturdays. He brought Margaret a bird feeder for Christmas. She hung it from the porch awning. Now they argue about whether the Blue Jays are bullying the Finches. It's the most animated I've heard her since Dad died 8 years ago. Dad's picture is still on the mantle. Henry nods to it when he comes in. The separation moves forward. Diane filed. Division is straightforward. We didn't own much together. 20 years, 2 people who both worked, and we had $11,400 joint savings. That's it. That tells you everything about our priorities. David keeps the truck, his personal belongings, his half of the $11,400. I keep the rest of savings, my 2018 Honda, and my name on the lease at Oak Street. I'll let it expire in March. I'm not going back. David moved back to Dubuque, Linda's spare room. He got a transfer to the Logistics Hub satellite office there. At least he's working. Matt texted me in December. One line. Rachel, I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. If you like the story, please like and share it. And don't forget to subscribe.